Are you ready to level up your English vocabulary to use the words that advanced English speakers use every day in daily conversation? Well, you're in the right place. A few weeks ago, I shared with you this English conversation where my husband and I answered your questions about daily life. And today, you're going to be able to master 10 English expressions that we used in that conversation so that you can use them when you speak English in the real world too. Hi, I'm Vanessa from speakenglishwithvanessa.com. And like always, I have created a free PDF worksheet for you with all 10 of these expressions, definitions, sample sentences, and drumroll, at the end of this PDF worksheet, there is a 10-question quiz. You can test yourself to see if you remember these expressions and can use them correctly in the sentences. Click on the link in the description to download this free PDF worksheet today. All right, let's get started with the first real English expression that was used in our conversation. That was to get out the door. We could just say, I leave the house every morning at 8 a.m. Boring. Or you could use this wonderful expression and you could say, I need to get out the door every morning at 8 a.m. This kind of is implying that there's a little bit of urgency to getting out the door, going to your destination. In the conversation with Dan, I said, I help Theo, our oldest son, to get out the door in the morning. Here, I could have said I help Theo to leave to go to school in the morning. Okay, but I wanted to talk about that urgency. If you have kids that need to go to school in the morning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta get up, get your clothes on, make sure you have some breakfast, get everything in their backpack prepared, make sure that they have everything that they need. There's kind of this snowball of energy that happens in the morning before you get out the door. So that's the expression that was used to talk about this urgent leaving. What we're gonna do now is I want you to see how it was used in the original conversation. So we're gonna watch that clip from the original conversation 2 times, and this way it can stick in your memory. You heard my explanation right now, and then you're about to see it in the real conversation as well. The more input that you have for an expression, especially if it's new to you, the more you'll be able to remember it. So let's watch that clip and see how it was used. I make some tea, we eat breakfast together, and I help our oldest get out the door with Dan.
That could be a challenge.
I make some tea, we eat breakfast together, and I help our oldest get out the door with Dan.
That could be a challenge.
The second real life English expression that was used in our conversation is this one, have to say. Well, by itself, this could mean several different things, but as a fixed expression, it has a very specific meaning. Take a look at this sample sentence. My cousin is a lawyer, and I'm really interested to hear what she has to say about the new law being passed. Oh, here we're talking about the insight that she can give on the new law. Because she's a lawyer, she knows more about how the law works than me, so I want to know her insight, that really in-depth knowledge that she has. So I might ask you as an English learner, I'm curious what you have to say about the new technology with AI and learning language. What do you think about learning language with AI? Is it possible? Is it a good idea? What are some ways that we could do that? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. This is a great way to ask for your insight, for your opinions and ideas about this. All right, let's watch the original clip 2 times so that you can see that original context for how this expression was used. Sometimes we also ask, what was the most challenging part of your day? If a day was particularly challenging, or just if we remember it. And it's interesting to kind of hear what everyone has to say. Sometimes we also ask, what was the most challenging part of your day? If a day was particularly challenging, or just if we remember it. And it's interesting to kind of hear what everyone has to say. The third real life expression is a fun one. It is to be zonked. This is a slang expression, and you can kind of get the meaning from this sentence. At the end of the day, I'm just zonked and need to turn my brain off and just go to bed. It just means I'm really tired. I'm physically and mentally exhausted. I can't do anything else. I'm zonked. So in the original conversation with Dan, I said, yeah, by the end of the day, I'm zonked. I have put so much energy into my day with my business, with teaching, with 3 kids, with a home, with a family, all of this. By the end of the day, I am zonked. So this is another fun slang expression to mean completely exhausted. All right, let's see how this was used in the original conversation. And usually, like Dan said, I'm kind of zonked by the end of the day. And brush my teeth, maybe take a shower, and go to sleep. And usually, like Dan said, I'm kind of zonked by the end of the day. And brush my teeth, maybe take a shower, and go to sleep. The next important real-life expression is 50-50. Well, what is a whole 100? So if we are going to say 50-50, both of these create a whole and it is an even split. So in the original conversation with Dan, we were talking about chores and how we divide the chores in our house. And I said, I don't know if it's exactly an even 50-50. I do 50%. My husband does 50% of the chores. I don't know if it's exactly even, but we try to split the chores in our house. So here we're talking about splitting the work. We can use this expression for splitting a lot of different things. We might say it's becoming more common to split the bill 50-50 on a first date. I would say traditionally, it's more common for the man to pay for the first date, but it's becoming more common for the woman to say, hey, let's split 50-50. This is our first date. Let's split 50-50. Or you could say, let's split the bill 50-50. I have to tell you a funny story about when I was little. I had some best friends who lived across the street, and we would often have schemes for making money. One of those schemes was to set up a lemonade stand, which is a pretty common thing to do in the US for kids, at the end of the driveway because there were some construction workers who were working on a house down the street, and it was a hot day. And we thought, they might want some lemonade. Maybe we can make some money off of them. So we created a lemonade stand at the end of my driveway. And as we were discussing, there was 4 of us, as we were discussing how much money we might make, what we would do with the money, one of my friends said, I don't want to split the money with you guys. I'm going to make my own stand across the street at her house by herself so that she didn't have to split the money 50-50 with us. Instead, she could have the money all to herself. And I remember being so angry at the time, but also thinking, oh, that's a smart idea. This was one of my first experiences with economics. But in that situation, we were going to split the money, I guess 25, 25, 25, 25, but for the sake of this expression, splitting the money 50-50 between us. And here she wanted to have the money all to herself and decided to come up with a scheme to be able to do that. I think in the end, we probably all made like $1. We were probably really happy about that. Anyway, let's watch the original expression from this, the original clip from this expression so that you can see how it was used. Let's watch.
Doing the dishes, that's my job. So I don't know if it's 50-50, but we split the chores. We try to be relatively even about it. Doing the dishes, that's my job. So I don't know if it's 50-50, but we split the chores. We try to be relatively even about it.
The 5th real-life daily English expression is pro and con. We usually use this in a plural version, so let me give you a sample sentence. You might say, working remotely has some pros and cons. People get flexibility with their schedule, but they also sometimes feel lonely because they don't have coworkers around them. So here we're talking about the benefits and the disadvantages, the advantages and the disadvantages, the good things and the bad things. Most things in life have a flip side. They're not just all 100% good or 100% bad. So we can use this for our daily life as well. In the conversation with Dan, we were talking about traditional food in the US and how a lot of people kind of struggle with knowing what to eat, what's healthy to eat. We don't have an extremely long, hundreds of years of history of traditional foods. Now, if you are a recent immigrant to the US or have held on to your original heritage, maybe your family does have more of that. But for a lot of Americans, we don't really have traditional foods that our ancestors have been eating for hundreds of years. So that's kind of a pro and con in the US. On one hand, we can have a variety of foods that we eat, have an experienced palate, but on the other hand, we often struggle with knowing what are good things to eat and what aren't good things to eat. We can kind of be susceptible to fad diets and things like this because we don't have this rich history of food culture and those types of things. So there are pros and cons to a lot of things. I'm curious, what do you think are some pros and cons to learning English online? Let me know in the comments. I can think of a few here myself. What do you think are the pros and cons of learning English online? Well, let's watch the original clip so that you can see how this expression was used. Let's watch. So there's kind of like that food tradition. And so I think in the US, that's like a pro and a con, that people often struggle with knowing, what should I eat? What should I make? So there's kind of like that food tradition. And so I think in the US, that's like a pro and a con, that people often struggle with knowing, what should I eat? What should I make? The next daily life expression is to up something. Usually the word up is a preposition. I walked up the stairs, but here we're going to be using it as a lovely verb, to up something. So take a look at this sentence. I deleted social media from my phone, and after I did that, I upped my reading a lot. So here we can see the correlation. I deleted social media off my phone, so now I have more time, more brain space, all of this, and as a result, I upped my reading. I have read so many books since deleting social media off my phone. I highly recommend it. So here we're talking about increasing something. Let me give you another example so that you can see the sentence structure for using this, because up, yes, is usually a preposition, but as a verb, we need to use it in a specific way. You could say this, I upped my water intake after I realized that I was dehydrated. So here I increased my water intake when I realized I was dehydrated. So we could really substitute the word increase here. I increased my water intake. I increased the amount of books that I read, my reading. But if you want to have a little bit more of a daily life conversation flair to your speech, in daily life, we are more likely to use the word up. I upped my water intake. I upped the amount of books that I read. This is a great expression to use. All right, let's watch how it was used in the original conversation. I deleted social media stuff off of my phone, so that really helped. I upped my reading when I did that. I deleted social media stuff off of my phone, so that really helped. I upped my reading when I did that. Important expression number 7 is to be over your head, or over his head, or over my head. We often use this expression with this gesture. And sometimes we don't even say the expression, we just go whew. So let me give you an example of how you might use this. For me, the first time that I watched the movie Inception, it was over my head. All of the confusing plot lines and jumping through time and all of this, it was too much for me. So here you can get the idea that I just didn't understand it. It was too confusing and complicated. If I want to take out that expression and just use the gesture, this is what I could say. The first time that I watched Inception, it wasn't for me. I didn't even need to say it was over my head. You understand why it wasn't for me. It's not that it was too violent. It's not that it was too boring. It's just that It was over my head. The whole idea was something I could not understand. And that's how we used it in the original conversation. We were talking about what Dan and Theo, my son, do when they're commuting to school every day because they have to drive 30 minutes to get to school every day. What do you do in that time? Well, they often listen to audiobooks, and one of the books that they tried to listen to is a famous one called Anne of Green Gables. It's a great story, but you know what? It was over his head. My son is 6, and that book is probably better for 10-year-olds maybe. So he wasn't very interested in it. It was kind of boring to him, and he wanted to listen to something else instead. So we could say Anne of Green Gables was over his head. It wasn't something that was a good fit for him. Just a little note about grammar. When you use this expression, make sure that that word, his, my, your head, it matches the person that you're talking to. You might have noticed this because I said the book was over his head. Or we could say Inception was over my head. The person that you're talking about needs to match the expression. All right, let's watch how that was used in the original conversation.
And we started Anne of Green Gables too, but that one was a little bit over his head.
Yeah.
Very verbose. And we started Anne of Green Gables too, but that one was a little bit over his head.
Yeah.
Very verbose.
Important expression number 8 is to be pressed. You can get the idea here that there is some pressure going on, and we're not talking about this in a literal pressure kind of way. We're talking about mental pressure. So if at your work you have deadlines, I think this is kind of a standard feature of any job, you might say, oh, we are going to be really pressed to finish this report by the deadline. It's supposed to be done in 3 hours. I don't know how we're gonna do it. So here you're talking about feeling the pressure of time. We often add on to this expression and say to plus something else. So I just said, we are going to be pressed to finish the report on time, but we could also insert a lot of other things here. In the original conversation, I was talking about trying to balance my work and life and family. It's a lot. So a lot of you asked me this question, Vanessa, how do you do that? And I said, you know what? It is a work in progress and I'm still learning how to do that. But my goal is to not work in the evenings after my kids go to bed. I need that time to be just detox time. But you know what? Sometimes I have a project that I'm working on and I'm pressed to finish it at a specific time. So I need those extra hours in the evening to be able to work. So you can kind of feel that pressure that I need to do it, even though usually this is my relaxation time. All right, let's watch how it was used in the original clip, and you can use this expression too when you feel pressure. Oh, I feel pressed to be able to do this. Oh, I'm so pressed right now at work. I'm having a hard time. You can do it. All right, let's watch.
Yeah, my goal is to try to not work in the evening after the kids go to bed, but sometimes I would be pressed to have to do that. And now I try to delegate tasks. That means give tasks to other people. Yeah, my goal is to try to not work in the evening after the kids go to bed, but sometimes I would be pressed to have to do that. And now I try to delegate tasks. That means give tasks to other people.
The 9th important daily life expression is to have it or that in you. So here we're talking about being capable of doing something, and often we use this either as motivation or as surprise. So let me give you a couple sample sentences. A kind of silly example, but a good starter one is, wow, you ate that whole pizza. I didn't know you had it in you. So this means I didn't know that you had the skill to eat a whole pizza. It's maybe not really a skill, but you know what I mean. I am surprised that you could eat that whole pizza. This is kind of a basic example, but let's take it up to the next level. A couple months ago, one of my neighbors, who's 13 years old, was part of a local theater performance of a musical, and we went to go see her, and I was blown away. She's usually pretty shy, but she was standing on the stage, singing and dancing, sometimes by herself in front of the whole audience. I didn't know that she had that in her. Here we're talking about the skill and the courage to be able to sing and dance in front of other people. I think most people in the whole world would be terrified at that. But even though she's usually kind of quiet and shy, she was able to do that. So here I'm expressing surprise in her skill. I didn't know that she had it. And here we don't usually mention the thing. Usually we just say it because it's implied based on the context. She was singing and dancing on the stage. I didn't know she had it in her. And we know that it is the skill to be able to sing and dance on the stage. Wow, I didn't know that she had it in her. And the fun thing is you can use this expression about yourself as well. So you're here because you were learning English, but let's imagine that your boss tells you, hey, guess what? We have some new clients that come from the US, and I'm gonna need you to call them and ask them some specifications about the product that they want and help us to negotiate an offer. Holy cow. This is a big deal. This is a big deal professionally, but it is a big deal to do in another language, in English. So when you do this and you do it successfully, you might say to yourself, wow, I didn't know that I had it in me to do that. And I did it successfully. Great work. I didn't know that I had it in me. Wow, I'm so proud of myself. I worked so hard to do this and I did it successfully. I didn't know that I had it in me. I didn't believe in myself at first, but here I am on the other side. Success. Great. All right, let's watch how this was used in the original conversation.
It feels actually pretty calming.
You
like
might
a
go
break.
to the gym and find Vanessa just like punching a punching bag. Like, I didn't know she had that in her.
It feels actually pretty calming.
You
like
might
a
go
break.
to the gym and find Vanessa just like punching a punching bag. Like, I didn't know she had that in her.
Our 10th and final important English expression is the cherry on top. Have you ever had a big bowl of ice cream or maybe seen one in the movies and they put some chocolate fudge syrup and then on top, boink, they put a cherry on top of the ice cream bowl? Well, the cherry is not the most fundamental element of the ice cream, but without that cherry, the bowl of ice cream would not be complete. This is perfection. So usually we use this to talk about the finishing touch on something that's already really good. So in the original conversation, we said that, yeah, we think that our family with just 2 boys is great. But you know what? Now that we have our 3rd and special baby girl, she is the cherry on top. This is the perfect finishing touch to our family. And you can use this in a lot of different situations. You might use it to talk about your job. You could say, I love my job, and the fact that it pays well is the cherry on top. I love the work that I do, but also guess what? I get paid well. That is the cherry on top. Yes, it is a great combination. All right, let's see how this was used in the original conversation so that you can use it too, this 10th and final expression. Let's watch.
I can only speak for myself because it just feels like our family's like complete. She's like the little cherry on top to our family.
Oh, our
and
baby.
Yeah, she's really sweet. I can only speak for myself because it just feels like our family's like complete. She's like the little cherry on top to our family.
Oh, our
and
baby.
Yeah, she's really sweet.
Congratulations on learning these 10 important daily life expressions. Now I would like to share the cherry on top with you. Don't forget to download the free PDF worksheet with all of today's expressions, definitions, multiple sample sentences, and the cherry on top. At the bottom of the PDF, you can answer a 10-question quiz so that you never forget what you've learned. That's the goal, right? To be able to use these expressions the next time that you speak in English. So make sure that you click on the link in the description to download that free PDF worksheet today. Well, thank you so much for learning English with me, and I'll see you again next Friday for a new lesson here on my YouTube channel. Bye! But wait, do you want more? I recommend watching this video next, where you will learn to think and speak in English, including why you should not say, I put the kids to sleep. Not very good in English, but why is that? Check out that video to find out, and I'll see you there.